What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Young Turks. I'm your host, Anna Kasparian. Cenk is out until Wednesday, actually, but we have an awesome panel for both hours of the show. Here with me is Brian Karem. Karem, you just told me how to pronounce it correctly, and I mispronounced it anyway.
Close enough for government work.
Karem, so Brian is the senior White House reporter for Playboy, and also you have a podcast, Just Ask the Question.
Just ask the question, that's
yes.
it. All right. Just ask it.
Thank you for joining us, and we have Alonzo Bodden. You're all familiar with him. He's been on several times before. I'm excited for this hour because later we're going to talk about how Seth Meyers is going to provide an option to skip the Trump jokes in his latest Netflix special. So I want to get your thoughts on that and just the state of comedy. That's always fun to talk about.
I'm here for you.
Yeah, all right, but before we get to all that, we do have one quick announcement to make. So as you know, we usually have a Revolution rally in addition to special debate coverage. So we're having our next TYT rally in Atlanta, Georgia on November 20th. If you're interested in going, you can always check out the details at tyt.com/rally. We will have Clarkston Mayor and candidate for Senate, Ted Terry. He will be speaking there, and you might know him from a conversation he had on The Conversation with Cenk, so please check that out. And I'm looking forward to it. So as always, we'll do our special debate coverage in addition to the Revolution rally. Again, go to tyt.com/rally for more information. All right, let's get to the news. Impeachment stuff.
Oh, that.
It's never ending, but this is
Wait a minute, that's news?
I know, right? All right, well, White House officials have decided to defy congressional subpoenas and were supposed to appear before congressional committees today to essentially give their depositions. But the Justice Department under the Trump administration has advised these individuals to avoid appearing and responding to the subpoenas. To give you some more details, John Eisenberg, the top lawyer at the National Security Council, was directed by Trump and the Justice Department's Office of Legal Counsel to stay away from his scheduled closed-door deposition, and that's according to a statement that was made public by Eisenberg's lawyer. Under these circumstances, Mr. Eisenberg has no other option that is consistent with his legal and ethical obligations except to follow the direction of his client and employer, the President of the United States. Accordingly, Mr. Eisenberg will not be appearing for a deposition at this time. Now, keep in mind, there's been several Trump administration officials who have given depositions, who have testified in these closed door hearings. However, some of these Trump administration officials have decided to take the advice of Donald Trump and the Justice Department and avoid appearing.
I like the use of the word ethical when they say that they are not going to show up. I think the ethics would determine that you would show up because it's obstruction of justice if you don't.
Right.
And when is someone going to just go after these people, find them in contempt of Congress, slap the cuffs on them and drag them in?
Do you think, do you think Democrats have it in them to do this?
It's a good question. I've often heard it said that the only thing worse than a Republican is a Democrat. They have some good ideas of holding him to justice. We'll have to see what happens. It's I think Nancy Pelosi has been very smart so far in the way she's advanced impeachment, and I think the public hearings are where you're going to really find out if anyone has anything. And at that point in time, I think some of these people will be compelled to come forward. And I think the telling of the tape will be this week if John Bolton testifies. He could end up being, the John Dean of this whole thing.
Well, the interesting and actually the funny thing about this administration is
there's something funny.
Yeah, well, not only does everyone in this administration have a lawyer, but now their lawyers have lawyers.
Right.
That has to be unprecedented, where everyone who works at the White House has a lawyer. Right?
Watergate was kind of like that too.
Yeah. Once it got there, but not from the very start.
Yeah, that's right. You take the oath of office. Here's my lawyer, and here's his attorney.
Yeah, exactly. So and that obviously, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So if everyone is lawyering up, and then the lawyers are lawyering up, and they're like, we're not going to go in that room. We're not going to talk. And the other thing is this strategy of, okay, we're going to make it about the procedure and try to get you to stop looking at the phone call. Stop looking at the substance of the impeachment. Let's just get stuck into the procedure to try to discount the treason or whatever. I mean, whatever ultimately the legal term is, but
obstruction of justice.
Obstruction of justice. But I'm talking about further. I'm talking about the making a deal with a foreign government against a U.S. presidential candidate.
That would be an abuse of power. I don't think it'll be a criminal. I think it's going to be a violation of his oath of office. Everyone treats it like it's a criminal proceeding, but the quid pro quo, that's for a criminal trial. This is just the abuse of office. Strictly speaking, the Democrats could say, look, the quid pro quo doesn't mean anything. What matters is the fact that you tried to make a deal with a foreign government and and I'm not going to curse and then do something bad to your own government.
Yeah, well and I respect that and I defer to you on that because you work at the White House and you understand the legal part of this.
I don't know about that anymore, but
well, no, but I'm just talking about to the person on the street, right?
Yeah.
Like the person on the street. It's like, what? The president's making a deal with another country against an American citizen?
Wrong. Right.
It's just wrong.
And you're right that they're focusing on the process, even though the Democrats have conducted this investigation lawfully. They haven't done anything out of the ordinary. In fact, when it comes to the closed door hearings, as we've talked about on the show before, what paved the way for these closed door hearings was what John Boehner pushed for and accomplished back in 2015 when they were conducting investigations into Hillary Clinton and the whole Benghazi mess. So this is their own doing, and they know they can't attack the substance because the substance is damning. I mean, you have various members of Trump's administration coming forward, testifying in these closed door hearings. We have their statements, Bill Taylor's statement, Lieutenant Colonel Vidman's statement,
President
Gordon
Trump's
Sondland's
statement.
President Trump's statement.
He was standing 5 feet away from me.
No, it was a very good phone call. It was the best phone call ever.
Well, he's 5 feet away from me on the South Lawn taking questions and says, yeah, China, go ahead and do it.
That's right.
So I mean, he fessed up to it in front of me. And then I was told later that I didn't hear what I know I heard.
Exactly.
But the closed door hearings, to your point, haven't been closed door. The Democrat, there's been 50 Republicans in there.
Right.
Then you got that frat boy fascist, Matt Gaetz, storming the Bastille, reminding me of a scene out of Animal House. See if you can guess what I am now. I'm a zit, get it? I mean, that was his whole deal. Him and his troops go crashing in there, and they were already allowed to be there. And finally, to the big point is when you talk about attacking the process, it's an old lawyer's trick.
Yeah.
If you have the law in your favor, argue the law. If you have the facts in your favor, argue the facts. When you can't argue the law and you can't argue the facts, pound your fists on the table and act like you're a zit. That's exactly what they're doing.
That's where the press, and this is where the press gets it. When they say that this is divided along party lines and stuff like that, it's like, no, it's not party lines. It's like right and wrong. It's like cover up versus truth. It's not party lines, right?
Versus fiction.
Versus,
That's what it is.
So again, this muddies the water, right? It muddies the coverage of this because this is what the Republicans love. And their base loves when you say, well, it's just Democrats attacking. It's just a witch hunt. It's just, and it's like, no, it's not that. But I think the media needs to get more into clarifying, like, no, this isn't just party lines. This is what's being done. And like you said, this is what's being said behind these closed doors and so on.
Well, you're right. And the problem with the press isn't that, we're not. The problem, honestly, with the press is sometimes I just don't think people are listening. I think they have picked their side. Look, we could always do our job better.
Let me just say, no, but there is this obsession in the press with being objective, right? And I think, as we've talked about before on the show.
Well, objectively, he's lying.
Well, yeah, he is lying.
I'm as objective as I can be there. He's lying.
In an effort to be objective, though, I feel like various media organizations have invited dishonest actors to come on and defend Donald Trump.
I can't disagree with you there.
And unfortunately, look, I'm gonna keep it real. Pundits on the left are just not as good at fighting back against the lies that they tell in real time, right? So they'll have like some sheepish, Democratic strategist or whoever trying to give the Democrats' point of view, and then you have some guy steamrolling in favor of Trump, and it's it's really frustrating. Like drawing these false equivalencies drives me nuts, and I think that it's really helping the Trump administration.
But that is also, I'm sorry.
No, the part of the problem there is that there's things that you have to understand. The reporters are there to ask the questions and to provide the information. What I think you're talking about is not the news, but the panel shows, which I'm on. Yeah. And I understand, it makes good TV, but we need to, in some cases, perhaps vet these people a little bit better. And it does become, a bit of a show. This is a show. This is, the news is, look, I asked the question, this was the answer. Here's the truth. And we do fact check him in real time often. And I've asked him to his face, why do you continue to lie to the American people?
Right.
And I get, the finger pointed at me, the stink face, and he goes nuts. But there's not a whole lot you can do about that except perhaps vet some of the guests. I talked to Kellyanne Conway, and I honestly,
sorry about that.
Yeah.
You're to be commended, but you said something. You used a word that they refused to use: lie. He lied, and they're like, "Well, we can't say that."
Yeah, we can.
We
can.
But you do. No,
yes,
what I'm saying is you do. But so many. To your point, Anna, so many of them won't say that, and these panels, like you were talking about, like it's cast that way. Like that's why they're not inviting you. Like
to Cuomo's credit, he does invite me.
He does,
and the last time I was on, there was some
Chris
Trump
is a good
advisor.
Friend of mine. I like him.
Chris is great. No, he's great because even though I don't agree with him on some policies or even candidates in the Democratic election, a primary election, I do like the fact that he gives a progressive like me an opportunity to go up against some of these Trump advisors. The last time I was on, there was a Trump advisor who was just completely lying about the legality of the process of the impeachment process. And so, yeah.
Oh, don't worry, they lie about immigration too.
Well, of course they do. We have a story on that later.
You don't have to, you can end the sentence with "they lie." Period. That's it. If somebody from this administration tells me the sky is blue, I'm checking.
Yeah.
Because I have never met, look, I've been covering presidents since Reagan. I've been spun, I've been told it's none of my business, but I've never been routinely lied to on such a daily basis.
Right.
It's just frustrating, and it has nothing to do with politics. And as far as progressives go, look, I'll pick on them as much as I'll be, and I get upset with reporters who say, well, look, I don't vote because I want to be able to be fair. No, I vote.
Yeah.
And I'm not. And guess what? It's a secret ballot. You're never going to. And you may not even be able to guess who I would vote for. But the situation is we are there covering the president, and whoever is the president deserves strict scrutiny. That we hold truth to power, and we should do our jobs. We have over the years we put our heads down. We're going to go straight ahead. We're going to ask these questions. We're going to do it the way we've always done it. Donald Trump changed the rules, people. That's the difference. Donald Trump called us the enemy of the people.
Right.
We're not. We are the people. You look in that press room, and there's hundreds of people of all race, creeds, colors there asking questions. He creates an environment and creates an enemy. And you can there's really only one way to deal with a bully. You gotta thump him back and let him know you're not taking it.
Well, that whole enemy of the people thing, it's the fact that his followers and so many believed it. You know what I mean?
Still do.
Like they believe,
and
like
still do.
When
because
your argument,
easy.
when you give a whole argument, you lay it out, and then someone just says fake news. It's like what?
It's easy.
But that's become the argument, right? Just say, well, fake news.
Well,
and then,
he's
It's
very good
very
at
easy
three-word
to immediately dismiss evidence contrary to your preconceived notions, right? If someone just says fake news, all right, well, I don't have to think critically about the evidence that's been presented to me. Now, look, here's the issue. John Eisenberg, who just refused to comply with congressional subpoenas, is one of the individuals who is not only aware of the phone call, he's the one who made the decision to place the actual phone call, the transcript of the phone conversation between Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky in a top secret server. And so it is important to get his testimony. I would venture to say that despite what the White House wants, eventually he's probably gonna have to comply, but that's just me guessing. Let me give you some more information though on what's going on, because Eisenberg isn't the only individual who refused to comply. the Office of Legal Counsel deemed the subpoena invalid, and Paul Butler, who is Michael Ellis's lawyer, he is the deputy for Eisenberg, basically said, we've been instructed not to appear, so we're just not going to appear. And so we'll see how this plays out. It really does depend on how Democrats respond to this. And just judging by how Adam Schiff comes off here, I don't know if they're willing to really fight. So just take a look at his statement in response to Trump administration officials refusing to comply with subpoenas.
This will be further evidence of an effort by the administration to obstruct the lawful and constitutional duties of Congress. We expect the witnesses who have been subpoenaed to come in this afternoon at White House instruction also to be no-shows. This will only further add to the body of evidence on a potential obstruction of Congress charge against the president. Indeed, in the Nixon impeachment, there was an article of impeachment based on the obstruction of Congress that itemized each of the subpoenas that the White House had defied. Well, today we have 4 additional subpoenas to add to the list.
So he's saying that Congress will find them in contempt of Congress.
Contemptible.
We'll see. We'll see.
Just contemptible.
Well, that's good. I mean, if they do that and it adds to the articles of impeachment, then I think that's a good. I don't know how much power it carries, but they're following, I guess, the legal procedures step by step. This is how you do it. So
this next video features Adam Schiff talking about how Democrats have given what Republicans wanted in terms of process, and they're still complaining. I think this is an important video to share with you because this is where I come in and really criticize Democrats. They should not buy into the framing that their political opponents demand. Take a look.
We have seen a series of shifting, ever-changing rationales for this campaign of obstruction. First, there was the argument, we won't comply, don't have to comply until there's a formal vote on the House floor. Well, we had a formal vote on the House floor. Then it was, we don't have to make these witnesses available because they're senior officials and they're given absolute immunity, even though no court has ever upheld the claims of absolute immunity. But then when people who were subpoenaed had little or no interaction with the president and there couldn't be even a colorable claim of some kind of immunity, the explanation shifted once again to, well, we're not going to let them come forward because you won't let agency lawyers present. This was the practice for the current members of our investigative committees, people like Jim Jordan during Benghazi, and people like Mike Pompeo, and people like Mick Mulvaney, all participated in depositions of senior agency officials without the presence of agency counsel.
So as you guys know, the House voted on formalizing the impeachment investigation, and I see that as a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's positive that they're going to make these hearings public. They're going to release some of the transcripts in regard to testimony that's already been given in closed-door hearings. But at the same time, it is what Republicans kept latching onto when they were complaining about process. Oh, these closed-door hearings, we can't believe it, this is wrong, even though, again, as Schiff mentioned in that video, they used the closed-door hearings in investigating Hillary Clinton. But at the same time, like Schiff shouldn't be surprised that if you give in to what they want, they're gonna move the goalposts. Of course they're gonna do that.
I'll push back a little bit there. I think what we're watching is a chess game. And it's all about the numbers. And this is what makes Donald Trump nervous, are the numbers. And he plays checkers, they're playing chess. And what it boils down to in the end, we knew how that vote was going to go. When Nancy Pelosi called for the vote, for the formal investigation, everyone pretty much knew how that vote would go. And that's probably gonna be what happens when they impeach him, and they are going to impeach him. I mean, I think that's a foregone conclusion. I think it'll probably happen before Christmas or slightly after. Then we'll probably have a couple of months of, well, we'll have the hearings first, and then it'll go to the Senate, and sometime in the spring, the Senate's gonna take a vote. So based on what we have in public hearings, people coming forward, the polling, the Republicans sit at a nexus of 2 stress points. And if the vote comes down in the Senate for removal, you know, impeachment being the indictment, and the Senate, the trial, and the removal, those senators, those Republican senators, and they need 20 of them, are gonna be looking at one thing, numbers. So when Schiff does what he does, it's to give the people in those districts say, look, we did this, and then the numbers will move. What they want is an overwhelming number because, as I said, you're sitting at a nexus there. So the Republicans, if they vote for Trump in impeachment and against impeachment removal, then they risk losing the general election. If they vote against Donald Trump and for impeachment and removal, they risk being primary.
Right.
So I've said this for weeks now, and I hope people hear it. The future of our republic rests on the supple, round shoulders of Mitch McConnell.
Gross.
And
Yeah,
at some
that's
point in
terrifying.
time, he's going to have to walk into the president and go, look, numbers don't lie. You don't have them. And that's what I think that's what we're seeing out of Schiff and Nancy Pelosi right now is an attempt to get those numbers to move. I don't care about that. They know daggone well that the Republicans have been in those hearings. And they know daggone well, and the Republicans know daggone well, that this process is fairer than anything that was given to Clinton or given to Nixon. They're all trying to maneuver the numbers. And I think that's what we're seeing is that game of chess.
Yeah, well, the hypocrisy of that, they do that all the time, right? So
Well,
this is what we, this is the exact procedure we followed against Clinton, and it was fine. Now, that's ridiculous. That procedure is illegal, right? But to what you said, and I hope people are listening, because ultimately, yeah, it's going to come down to the numbers. They're all politicians, right? Their whole job is to keep their job. So the question is, and this is where the danger is with the Democrats, to get caught up in the minutia and lose, because you lose people in the minutia. You need people like it simple.
Yeah.
It's something the Republicans have always been better at, just giving a simple message, a slogan, or whatever. That's why Lock 'Em Up was so funny at the baseball game. That's why it was hilarious, because it was like, that's un-American. Well, we learned it from you.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But I think you're right with the procedure, but ultimately we'll see where the numbers go.
Yeah. Well, the numbers
Hopefully
are
people
looking
paying
good
attention.
for people who want Donald Trump impeached. The support for not only impeachment but also removal has a small, majority. So that's good news, but we'll see how this all plays out. We're gonna take a quick break. When we come back, we have Donald Trump obsessing over the whistleblower. We'll give you his chopper talk on that and more when we return.
We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment.
Welcome back to TYT. Anna Kasparian, Brian Karem, and Alonzo Bodden with you. I want to read some member comments before we move on to the rest of the news. I bathe in a very stable genius's tears, writes in and says, the level of privilege the Trump administration enjoys is unprecedented. What normal person can outright ignore subpoenas and get away with it?
I know I couldn't, could you?
No, I try every time they send me jury duty. I'm like, maybe I'll ignore this. They're like, oh no, you won't.
They dragged me off to jail.
By the way, if a close associate of ours testified that we committed tax fraud while would the IRS just kind of like let that go?
No, probably not.
Yeah.
And pleasure to know you. And if she did it, I have nothing to do with it.
Well, Anna,
I know nothing about it.
Anna is a billionaire. It's all hidden in the Cayman Islands.
I don't know if I'd be here if I were a billionaire. All right, let's move on to Wendy S. Wow, the amazing Brian is in the TYT house. What a pleasant surprise.
Thank
Got
you.
some fans. And Meg says, oh yes, let's hear from Adam. And then there's a bunch of Z's. Oh, whoops, I fell asleep there. So you gotta admit though, Adam Schiff seems so uninterested in everything that's going on. And maybe that's part of his play. Maybe he wants to appear dispassionate, but it's just, I don't know, it just kind of.
For those who want to see something happen, they want to see the Democrats more passionate. For those who want to see Donald Trump stay in office, they want to see a placid, flaccid, and almost incapacitated Adam Schiff. And I think he's trying to walk a tightrope, and it's hard to do.
I don't know. I think
he's
they
on the
need-
Or
right
you
side
just
of
think
that.
he's flaccid and
Yes,
impassive.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to
Okay.
use that wording, but yeah, definitely.
You need a dynamic speaker. This is a fight.
Yeah.
This is a
Yes,
fight. You
yes.
need somebody
That's what I'm saying.
You need somebody that people like, did you hear what he said? Like that, you need someone to rally behind or whatever, because yeah, you need that person. You need a voice.
Yeah, I totally agree.
There's somebody in Congress, on some level, right, who has that voice. They need to find him or her.
I think they need to find that in a candidate for president.
Well, that would be the ultimate, but they need to find him or her and put them in front of the microphone and say, yeah, you carry the message because you've got the voice.
Right. All right, well, let's move on to more impeachment related news.
The whistleblower should be revealed because the whistleblower gave false stories. Some people would call it a fraud. I won't go that far, but when I read it closely, I probably would.
Holy Mary, Mother of Mary.
All right, so there's Donald Trump, another edition of Chopper Talk. Yes.
So Brian, you have to listen to this every day.
Yes, I do. And I'm usually the one asking the questions that prompt that. And
so let me give you the details on what he's saying now, and I think this is just part of the distraction, as we know that there's been a number of White House officials who were subpoenaed to testify before congressional committees in the impeachment investigation. They've decided to defy those subpoenas, and so Trump is focusing on something that, quite honestly, is pretty irrelevant at this point. The whistleblower, who is it, and when is the media going to reveal this person's identity?
He's trying to egg us on to do it. That he wants us to release that name. And first of all, I know Mark Zaid, who's the whistleblower's attorney. There are more than one. There are multiple whistleblowers.
Right.
And they are irrelevant. They are factually not necessary to the narrative at this point. The president of the United States walked out and 5 feet from me told me exactly what the whistleblower said he was worried about. He or she was worried about. In addition, there have been other people come forward and testify. What the president is doing here is to try to deflect, but the more important thing is destroying the credibility of anyone who should come forward in the future, and in the process, he is a predator, destroying the Whistleblower Act. It doesn't matter if the whistleblower is right or wrong. The whistleblower merely came forward and said, look, I feel like this is wrong and it should be looked into. Following the exact rule of law and the way it should be done, the whistleblower presented information and the president released a transcript, which was really a memo, not a transcript, about, and then in that, he verified everything that the whistleblowers said was wrong.
You're exactly right. I mean, Donald Trump has incriminated himself over and over again, and he's the one who made the decision to release that memo of the phone call he had with Zelensky. And then on top of that, of course, you have, again, several of Donald Trump's officials testifying that yes, there was quid pro quo. Yes, this was problematic. And this is a form of intimidation. This is essentially messaging to anyone in government. If you have the audacity to speak out against me, even if you do so through legal means, I will come for you. Exactly.
And that you said it earlier, used the word earlier, and it's true. It's bullying.
Yeah.
It's bullying because if you're in that whistleblower's position, or if you're any position where you're working, who knows what level it might be. It might be clerical, it might be whatever. But you hear something where, just like you said, like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. I should say so. But if you're in a position of no power, now are you gonna do that? You know how scary that is? Because the reality is a lot of these people who work in the administration, the worker bees, you know what I mean? They need the job. Like you have bills, you have a family, you have a career. And this can destroy your career, where not only do you lose this job, you can't find anything in the future. This is
kind of like Sean Spicer.
Your life.
Bullying. Yes, Spicer.
But it goes beyond. I just got to say, it goes way beyond career. I mean, we know the type of political climate we're living in. We know the type of political violence that's been encouraged by someone like Donald Trump.
Yes.
Targeting a specific person like this and doing so relentlessly not only potentially destroys this person's career, but could destroy their life.
And then
it goes further than that. It's destroying the republic.
Yeah.
It's destroying on an international level. It's ruined our reputation, and it's giving cover to despots who, in the past, we condemned, we're cozying up to, and others will use what Donald Trump does to give them verification for what they do.
Right, it makes it okay.
Yeah.
Well, the president of the United States did.
So hey, we can do it.
So it's okay. Yeah, this is bullying at the worst, and it's bullying people who can't fight back. Right, these are the people who can't hire a lawyer who has a lawyer who has a lawyer. You know what I mean? And go. These are people you can't fight on this level.
Well, luckily there are some lawyers in DC who will take these cases pro bono. Mark Zaid, who is the attorney for the whistleblowers at this point, is one of the best. And the thing is he's getting hit by the Republicans going, look, you're obviously partisan. And he goes, wait a minute, fellas,
what
I'm
happened
independent.
to attorney-client privilege, by the way?
By the way, he also defended like the Daily Caller for a FOIA request. He's defended the Republicans in one of the cases against Hillary Clinton. He's totally independent.
He's even offered to have the whistleblower respond to Republicans' questions in written form. And Donald Trump, of all people, rejected that and said, no, it's unacceptable. He needs to show up and testify.
Well, that's because writing requires reading.
Well,
and Donald, now, Anna, let's be fair.
And remember, during the Mueller investigation, Trump didn't want to testify.
There's a comedian coming out of you.
You mean I got to read it? Never mind.
I tweeted out, I said today, do you want someone to read it to you?
Are there going to be any illustrations, some pictures? All right, well, let's go to the next video because Trump continues with his nonsense regarding the partisan leanings of this whistleblower.
Certain of the media released information about a man that they said was the whistleblower. I don't know if that's true or not. But what they said is he's an Obama person. It was involved with Brennan, Susan Rice, which means Obama. But he was like a big anti-Trump person, hated Trump. And they said terrible things. Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but that was reported by some of the media, so you'll have to find out.
The fake media.
The whistleblower does not matter. Even if by the way, there's no evidence that this is some partisan who's out for Trump. It doesn't even matter if he or she were. Because the fact of the matter is Donald Trump has already incriminated himself. In front of a helicopter, he talked about how China should investigate his political opponents.
I was there.
Yeah.
I'm an eyewitness to a disaster.
What was going through your mind when he made those statements?
When he said, well, the very next question I asked him was, I said, are you going to encourage Putin to investigate him? And that's when he walked away.
That's hilarious.
But I mean, yeah, I don't know where you go at that point in time. I'm an eyewitness to it, and he doubled down on it in front of us to try and make it sound like there was nothing wrong. It was the perfect conversation. So Mick Mulvaney came out in the press briefing room and said, hey, look, we did it, get over it. We do it all the time. Wow. There was the confession, right there. Trump confessed, Mulvaney confessed. What more do you need? Yes, I shot her, Your Honor. Yeah, and the witness, yes, I saw him shoot her, Your Honor. It's okay.
Let's go after the person who first reported that I shot her.
Yeah,
right. Like it's
has
so
nothing
ridiculous.
to do with a murder at this point. Just who was the one who ratted me out?
There's two things here I love. One, he said the person hates Trump, right? So you're doing an investigation. Say, what clue do we have? The person hates Trump.
Well,
okay,
that narrows it down.
That narrows it down to everybody. But the other thing,
except Kellyanne and Stephen Miller,
his hatred of Obama and the fact that Obama gets under his skin so much. You know the Trump baby balloon?
Yes.
I say if you really want to drive Trump crazy at his rallies and all that, don't bring out the Trump baby. Just bring out Obama balloons. Just have Obama heads floating around. That would
like Adonis-like.
That would destroy him so much more than the Trump baby. Just
or
everywhere,
like 3,000 masks.
Everywhere he turned,
Obama
there was
Such
Obama's face. He would just snap. He would just lose it.
And he would totally lose it.
Well, what's he got left to lose? Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting there. I'm telling you, I'm worried about the guy. I don't know that he's,
Please.
I as a human being.
No,
as a human being,
I'm past
I am.
I'm with you, Anna.
I'm so past it. He's been.
I got nothing.
I got nothing.
Yeah, none. There's no sympathy, empathy.
No, I didn't say sympathy. Empathy, a little different. I have a little empathy for it.
I got nothing.
Well, I wouldn't want to, gack out and go. I have empathy for that, but that's my fear.
The only thing that I find comfort in these days is watching him suffer. And he's suffering right now. I mean,
that he is.
All of the early morning Twitter rants, all of the nonsense about how this is a perfect call, he's panicking, and he has good reason to panic. I mean, he's pushing Senate Republicans to defend him on the substance of this impeachment investigation, and Senate Republicans are like, listen, no, this is super risky. We can't do that. We're gonna keep focusing on process. And look, the fact of the matter is Trump makes it increasingly difficult for them to support him or defend him on substance, because he's the one who keeps saying things like, it was a perfect call. Here he is saying that it's a perfect call yet again.
Well, they can't defend the facts, they can't defend the law. I don't wanna go so far. My worry is, I do have something left as far as empathy goes because of the position.
You're a far better person than I am. I don't know how that's even possible.
Because I'm looking at I hope I'm looking at a bigger picture. And the bigger picture is, how do we get past this? There's gonna come a time when Donald Trump isn't president by his means, the means of nature, or the means of the Senate or the Electoral College or something. His time will end. How do we pick up the pieces afterwards? Because there are people that I know, there are millions of people who voted for him in 2016 and don't want to vote for him in 2020, but they're upset with the Democrats because they're talking about healthcare, and to those voters that want to find someone else to vote for, their healthcare is their gun.
Yeah.
And you want to take that away, and they ain't going to vote for you. I don't care if you tell them free tooth enamels and whatever you want to give them, that's not going to happen. So I'm worried about what goes, and I don't take pleasure in seeing this at all. I'm concerned for the republic, the future, and I have my first grandson. I'm worried about how he's gonna grow up.
Well,
what are we gonna do?
We were talking about it before the show, right? If this wasn't real, it would be hilarious.
Yes.
It would be hilarious. I mean, just in that statement when he said that, some would call it fraud, I wouldn't go that far, but I'm gonna say it is.
But maybe
it's like,
I
wait a minute, you just said.
But maybe I would.
That flirty way. He always does this weird flirty whisper voice.
I
wouldn't call it fraud,
yourself,
but maybe I would.
Right. You contradicted 2 sentences ago. Not even from morning to afternoon, and the tweets and all of that. If it wasn't real, it would be hilarious.
It's entertaining to watch.
What you're saying,
I'll give you that.
I could not sell this fiction.
What you're saying is what happens? Do we look back? Well, it depends on which country we are. Because if we go back to the country we were before Trump, we'll look back at it and say, man, this was a horrible mistake, never do it again. But there is that risk that you talk about, that this is the new normal. And we just purely
I
become,
think Trump has
I've said it
desensitized
before,
the American voters to the kind of nonsense that we're seeing in the White House, and that terrifies me.
He's not an aberration of the system by any measure. He is the culmination of it. I mean, he is a symptom of the problem that has existed for a while.
Absolutely.
We're a reality show.
Yeah.
We unfortunately, I've joked about it all the time, we're Canada's favorite reality show. They look over the border and they're like, what are they doing now?
Look what our dumb
what are they doing? They
legalized
marijuana so they could all get high and watch us. They're like, oh, this show is gonna be good. How long is this on?
Well, we're smoking with them just to numb the pain. All right, we gotta take a break. When we come back, we have more news for you, including Seth Meyers having the option, or giving you the option, of skipping his Trump jokes. Why? We'll give you that and more.